If you don't like the movie review episodes, keep it to yourself.
We're still little and have feelings.
Yeah.
We're not hardened by the industry yet. Hi, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How did we start the last
I don't
one? I don't even
remember.
remember.
I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, we don't have a script or a plan. We're just going to go and we're going to talk about Swamp Thing from 1982. That's it.
This is another movie review episode.
Oh, right. What are we doing?
You just said what we're doing.
No, your part should have came before my part.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Like by the oh right thing. I'm tired.
We could start again if you
Let's
want.
start again.
Okay. Welcome to this episode of Jess and Hits Make a Podcast
/ movie review synopsis thing.
That's what this episode is going to be. Another movie review for you guys.
We hope you like them. We find a movie that is either taking itself very seriously or not very seriously at all, or is just completely cheesy because of the time it was made.
Cheesy and horrible.
Great.
Great.
All wrapped into one.
Yeah.
Cheesy, horrible, great, all wrapped into one. Today we're doing Swamp Thing from 1982.
Yay. Swamp Thing is based on the DC comics of the same name, I think, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about this movie. It has a 5.3 rating out of 10 stars on IMDb. It stars Louis Jordan as the evil genius bad guy. At times, you think he's German because of his accent, but then you're not sure because the accent slips.
I have somewhere in my notes, oh, look, we have an accent ? Because at one point, he's playing a British / Aussie?
I don't know. Well, he was just pretending to be that guy.
Right, but like German /
I
English?
have no idea.
I mean, like, he was English there for a second.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. He's from, it's Louis Jordan, by the way.
Oh.
He was in Gigi. But he was, I knew he was in Bond. He was the bad guy in Octopussy, which came out in 1983.
So just a year after this movie comes out,
He plays the Bond
he
villain.
plays a Bond villain.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's also,
I mean, I'm going to call it a step up.
yeah, I think so.
Let's talk about Swamp Thing.
The movie starts with a bit of text exposition. Not even exposition, really. It
No, it's
doesn't
just kind
actually
of an
set
intro.
anything up. It's just basically what it says is creative genius plus evil dream equals monster. That's what I have in my notes.
Too powerful to be destroyed, too intelligent to be captured. This being still pursues its savage dream.
Oh, yeah, monster with a savage dream.
A monster with a savage dream.
You typed the entire intro.
I typed the whole thing. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, it says, and this is over a view of a swamp, a bayou. There's
Yeah.
like dramatic, sweeping
Vistas.
Vistas, that's the
Yeah.
word. Hey, I'm tired. Not long ago, in the unexplored reaches of an unmapped swamp, the creative genius of one man collided with another's evil dream, and a monster was born. Too powerful to be destroyed, too intelligent to be captured, this being still pursues its savage dream.
I just realized the fact that it said an unmapped swamp,
I know.
but then they go to like a secret headquarters that used to actually be a church.
Yeah.
It used to be a populated
There's
area.
a church and there's a gas station and there's a rather nice, lovely plantation house
Yeah.
/ mansion / evil lair.
Uh-huh. But it's unmapped. It's an unmapped area.
With a
of the swamp.
dungeon also, which I would like to point out, no. In a bayou, you don't really
there's
have
no
basements
underground.
and cellars in a bayou.
Yeah.
It's all water.
Yeah.
But also there's like roads. There's multiple roads these people are driving down.
Yeah.
So
It's
unmapped.
not remote. And then we cut to the interior of the helicopter, which is, of course, the best place to have a conversation.
without This is what I love. There's one guy in the helicopter, not the pilot, just some random guy sitting in the back who has the glasses and the helmet with the mic
Yeah.
and earphones.
And he's not even the one that talks.
He never says a word.
Yeah.
All he does is like lower a gangplank because they land in the swamp. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a little conversation between
the passenger
and the
woman.
pilot.
And the pilot.
And she says, "Where's the nearest good restaurant?" To which he replies, "Well, if you're a human, it's back in D.C. But if you're a gator, it's right about where we're going to land." Oh, yeah. They don't have headsets or mics or anything. They're just talking over the roar of the chopper because
and it's
the
one of
doors
those,
are open.
Yeah, it's one of
on
those
both
choppers
sides.
with no doors. So, yep.
So totally believable.
Yeah.
Also, this is the Savannah Coast Guard. So Georgia?
Yeah.
Maybe?
No, DC is the nearest good restaurant.
I beg to differ.
I know.
There's some fine eating down in the South, okay?
So the helicopter lands at this super secret base.
No,
Lab?
it just lands like in a marshy area. Like there's a boat that comes right up to it. And this is where non-speaking man lowers the gangplank onto the boat.
Yeah, that was his job.
I couldn't figure out what the helicopter actually landed on. It didn't have the little pontoony things.
It didn't.
It was just, it just kind of landed on some lily pads. I don't know. But this boat comes
just
right
like a
up.
little dragonfly.
And this one guy is like, "I'm out of here, man. This place sucks," or whatever. But he's like, "What? They sent a woman out here?" And I'm like, and she's just like,
but then she climbs out of the helicopter in her skirt and her heels.
Well, no, she had like slacks on, but she's like griping
I thought it was
about
a skirt.
No, I think it was actually pants in that first scene. But she's like, "Do you know what I paid for these shoes?"
Oh, no, that wasn't until later when she was actually tromping through the swamp.
Right.
No, she has a skirt in
Did
this
she have a
first
skirt?
scene.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
Come on, chick.
I know.
You're going
like,
out
you
to the
knew where
swamp.
you were
You
going.
knew, this wasn't
Come
a
on.
vacation spot.
Yeah.
Come on.
And so the whole time she's like griping about the swamp.
Anyway, I hate the swamp.
I hate the swamp.
Obligatory mosquito slap.
Yeah. I hate swamp. I hate the bugs. I hate the humidity. Oh my gosh, my hair.
And then we cut away. I have something to say about her hair, by the way. I'll come back to that.
Oh, man.
We cut away to a guy on a boat, and then we cut away to another guy walking in the water. And then he stops and looks, and he's like, "Oh, there's like 6 guys over there in camo." And he starts backing away. But then, # not Rambo.
I call him Timu Rambo.
Yes.
I was like, oh, look out for the swamp commandos. Running through the swamp has to be so frustrating. Like,
I mean, seriously.
you don't get anywhere.
You don't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Also, like, they found a lot of really good running places in the swamp because it tends to be like a few feet of knee deep and then whoop, and then knee deep and then whoop, and then you're just, But they found a lot of good tracks through there.
Yeah.
So good on them in this unmapped swamp.
But yeah, Timu Rambo.
This is my favorite part of the movie, though, by the way.
Okay, go.
So Rambo, like, stops the guy with a gun in his back. No, Rambo doesn't have a gun until later on, I don't think.
Yeah.
I made a note
Because
Rambo don't need no gun.
Yeah.
He gets the guy, he like shows up and the guy's like, "Oh crap," and he takes off running right into the arms of all the other commando guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they hold him. And Timu Rambo reaches into the pocket of his army surplus combat pants and pulls out a friggin' snake.
A snake.
And he's like, and he's laughing and somehow gets the snake to like actually bite the guy.
Because everybody knows you could just do that.
Because you could just point a snake at a guy and it will trigger the snake's bite.
Yeah.
And it's like, it like legit strikes and bites the guy and he screams. And then I think Rambo just tosses the snake aside.
Yeah, I think so. His job was done. Well done, Snake.
Good job, Snake.
Yep.
Checks in the mail. Just tosses him aside. And I'm like, wait, when did you pick up the snake? Have you always had this snake?
He was just carrying it in his pocket.
Is it his friend?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was.
He was obviously trained to bite on command.
So why does Rambo just grab a new snake every time? I mean,
Well, he only does it once in the movie, so maybe
Rambo.
it's just maybe Timu Rambo is not the kind of guy that kills people the same way twice.
Oh, fact.
Yeah.
Fact. It's a little different every scene that he's in.
That's how he challenges his creativity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good for him. Good for him. So then cut back to the girl on the boat and the guy behind her. Locals say this place is haunted because some like animal made a sound.
Sure.
We're not
in a
Kansas
swamp
anymore, Toto.
Oh, yeah.
She says that. I'm like, what? I don't know. The writers, there's a lot of excellent one-liners. I did not write them all down, but there are some excellent one-liners in this movie.
You say excellent.
I mean,
I don't know about that.
there are some. Okay, come on. Yeah, there's some good one-liners later on.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, then
they roll up to the abandoned church, and so they're coming through headstones on this boat, and the local is explaining that this place used to be a church.
Unmapped.
Yeah. But then like a levee broke or something and it flooded or whatever and became a swamp. I
missed that bit.
Yeah. But like he was saying it used to be a church, but something flooded.
Oh. Yeah, I missed that part. I was focused on that we're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
Because she looks like a total Kansas girl.
Oh,
I don't think this woman's ever stepped foot in Kansas, by the way.
Yeah. So I wrote down cemetery swamp, my new aesthetic.
I mean,
Gothic swamp vibes.
Yeah, Gothic swamp vibes. I like it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
I could pull it off.
Yeah. We'll just flood the front yard here.
Sure. Yeah. We can turn this desert landscape into a swamp.
I mean, it's just a small patch. It would only cost, all the water in the area.
Mm-hmm. So the lady gets inside and meets up with someone.
I can't remember his name.
Not important.
But he's going to he takes her into one cabin and he's like, this is our state of the art, blah, 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 blah.
Oh,
and
right. She didn't even go into the church yet.
I got you. I know what this is. And she rattles off this big, long name that I'm sure doesn't actually exist. And I could fix this because, I'm smart.
Because I'm smart.
And
that's when we learn that the lady is smart instead of just complaining about the swamp.
Yeah. She's smart, but she has, her limits.
Yeah.
She has, words. Standards. Thank you. Jeez.
Cutscene to another dude in the swamp. The same guy that got bit by the snake?
Yeah, he's staggering.
So he's staggering through the swamp and then he falls.
And he just falls into the swamp.
And then that's all we see of him.
That's all we ever see of him.
And then back to the lady.
Back to the lady. And she's looking over this high-tech machine that's just hanging out in the swamp, by the way.
Uh-huh.
That's got to be great for the inner workings.
We still don't actually know what's going on.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on.
We don't know what this place is.
But she's like, hey, this, you have an alarm sensor going off here. She turns it off, hits the reset button, turns it off, and says, hey, there's an alarm. Oh, but the guy who's her guide or whatever is gone. He's outside.
Yeah, he's already moved on.
He's like,
continue with the tour. So she's like, never mind.
Yeah, never mind. That's silly. Don't worry about an alarm.
Yeah, I'll just
I'm sure
that
that's
for
not
you.
got any purpose at all.
So then they meet, I think the British / Aussie guy was supposed to be in charge of security or something.
I think he's in charge of the whole thing. I think he's supposed to, I don't know. I can't really figure out what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But he's your typical, I think he's supposed to be an Aussie guy. He's got the hat, he's got the khaki shirt and khaki pants and the accent. And he's yelling at them to hide the boat. How dare they leave the boat next to the small, tiny little dock. I didn't understand that part. He's hide that boat, hide that boat.
But there are there are people walking around everywhere. 4
buildings here, lights, noise. I mean, it is unmapped swamp. I don't know what they're worried about. But anyway, he takes her in and he doesn't
into the
seem
church.
real happy.
They're going into the church right now and they walk inside and the walls are steel.
Yeah, immediately.
So it looks like an old dilapidated church on the outside, but then they go inside and it's
steel walls.
They converted a church
with a door that has a fingerprint lock Don't worry, honey. It was keyed to your prints this morning. I don't know why I keep giving him this like 1920s gangsta.
Yeah, that's
but
funny.
because he's got this Aussie, he's like, we keyed it to your prints this morning. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to try to do that accent
No.
either. It's bad. But go ahead. And he like has her open the door.
And they walk down the stairs. So again, underground in the swamp.
In the swamp
Okay.
again.
Into a super secret botany lab.
Greenhouse? Question mark?
What is what's going? It's still no explanation about
None.
what's happening here or what's she doing here. Who is this lady? What is this place?
So
no idea.
She walks down. The rest of them, I don't know. They kind of just like stay upstairs.
Yeah,
or
they're just
something
like,
for a
there you
minute.
go, have fun.
Knock yourself out. This is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So she goes down, and there is Mr. Hot Guy and his sister are.
Oh, we don't know.
Well, we don't know their sisters.
Brother and sister yet.
Yeah, sorry. Oops, spoilers.
Yeah.
Hot Guy, cute blonde. They've got their hands
Elbows
up
deep.
to their elbows in an algae pond of some sort.
Looking for something.
And he's like,
and so he's like, come on, come help us find this.
come on, get
Put
in
your hands
there,
in
do
here.
your job. She's like, I don't know what I'm doing.
She like just walks into this top secret place, and this scientist is like, get in here, get in here.
Go on, stick your hand in the algae and help me find my Cooper's digger, whatever a Cooper's digger is. And she's like, he's like, I dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
And so she rolls up her sleeves and sticks her hands into the algae, and then half a second later, he pulls out a possum? Question mark.
Yep.
An algae covered possum.
Who was just screaming.
I know. It was underwater for quite some time, apparently.
Yeah.
But now it's like screaming because it's like, I'm drowning. And
he just takes it.
He takes it over to a shelf, and then we never see it again. I don't know. It's like, it's just gone. But apparently it ate something. I don't know. I don't
know.
understand that. It's gone. But he is immediately.
They do just enough in that scene to let you know that there's some sciencey stuff going on.
Science stuff is happening
with plants and a possum.
Yeah,
and that's all you need to know. You don't need to understand what's going on. It's just science, and it's okay if you don't understand it.
So he walks off, and the two girls are left, and our
Chatting.
DC girl is like, ew, no, she's grossing out. But the blonde is like, he's the brains in the family. I just cook up what he invents, which is like, ugh, give me a break.
Yeah.
But then
but also like that guy that got into the helicopter when she got out. I was like, you're bringing a woman here? Like,
I know, like, dude, there's already a woman here. Like, what?
And
what is that?
And she's not even like a rough and tumble type.
She's
like
a scientist,
she's
so
an
apparently
attractive
she's
blonde
not
scientist. Oh. She doesn't count.
She doesn't count. She's too smart to be a woman. Like, oh my God, Jess. She's like so smart. Like, she is so smart. She is not even a woman. I don't know why.
Wow. I don't know.
I'm tired. Okay, anyway.
So they talk some more, but they don't really talk about anything that's happening about anything, right?
No, they don't talk about anything, but like the next thing is Alec, who is the handsome scientist doctor, is like, hey, let's go on a tour of the swamp.
Yeah.
And so
I call him bro scientist.
Bro scientist?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because he's the brother, not because he's a bro man.
Science bro.
Yeah, science bro.
The science sis.
Yeah.
Science sis. Anyway. He's like, we're going to go out. We're going to go get in a boat, and I'm going to take you around the swamp. And she's like, okay. And this is the point where she complains about her shoes.
Yeah. But she was able to change her clothes because now she's in a bright red shirt. Right? Had she changed at that point?
Yeah, at some point she does end up in a red shirt, but
because she was in like a blazer situation.
Oh yeah.
And then she changes into a
red like
a red Hawaiian
print, like almost Hawaiian, but not so loud. It's more red with subdued like red flowers, but I mean, but it's not like. It's red, so you could find her in the swamp.
Yeah,
because
so all the bad guys can find her in the swamp too.
Everything is dreary green.
Yeah. So anyway, they go for a tour of the swamp, which I don't know what that means because
he just puts her in a boat and paddles her around.
Yeah,
and he's like super smooth. He like paddles up to this tree and
There's an orchid on it.
Picks an orchid. Oh, wait. But before that, right after she complains about the boots, I paid a fortune for these boots.
Oh, yeah.
Watch out. There's quicksand all over. And I'm just like.
At that point, they're walking through the swamp.
They're walking through the swamp.
They have, for some reason, gotten out of the boat. I don't know why. It's just. I don't know.
They're like tromping through the swamp, and he's like, quicksand, which is like, yes. Because
is there going to be a quicksand
if you're
scene?
Gen X, you know that you were taught at a very young age how to get out of quicksand, even though it will never, ever be a problem.
We were just taught to watch out for quicksand. We weren't taught how to get out of it. We were just like,
poor
just
little
watch out for
cuspy.
quicksand.
Gen Xers were taught you spread out and you don't struggle because that makes it worse. Also, you shout for help. Yes, you're in a jungle. I don't know. I really thought quicksand was going to be a bigger problem in life, but turns out
Yeah, I think everybody did.
it's not.
Yeah.
Anyway, then they're back on the boat and he plucks this orchid, like the whole plant off a tree.
Yeah.
And orchids do grow like that. Fun fact, they are a parasitic plant.
Yeah, and they have aerial roots.
Yeah, aerial roots. They're very cool. I love orchids, but I do kill them.
Yeah, me too.
I try quite frequently.
Yeah.
New orchid. It's dead. New orchid. It's dead. Okay.
Yeah. I went through several orchids.
I did.
I really did try.
Once have an orchid for almost a year, and it actually bloomed again.
Oh, I forgot to put my phone on silent.
Professional.
Yeah.
So yeah, he shows her this beautiful pink orchid again, other than her shirt, the only bright spot of color in this entire swamp. And he tells her the genus, the species, the family, and how precious this beautiful orchid is. And he puts his arm around her. He's like, hey, I'm going to put my arm and show you this orchid. And she's like, no.
Okay, I have to interject right here.
Interject away.
And say that the guy that plays this super smooth scientist is Ray Wise. And if you're familiar with Twin Peaks, if you've seen Twin Peaks, I know Hids hasn't.
I have not.
If you've seen Twin Peaks, he's the guy that plays Leland Palmer. Creepy guy. Creepy old guy.
He's also been on Young and the Restless. If you watch those old soaps, or somebody did.
He's been on a lot of things.
Yeah, he's been on a lot of things.
Yeah, just like an episode of a billion different shows. But yeah, it's the same guy. And I did not realize this until afterward. I looked him up on IMDb and was like, oh, that's major creepy now. I'm going to have to look up clips of Twin Peaks and show you that.
Just watch it.
Yeah.
So he's like putting the moves on her and she's like, whoa, pump the brakes.
Save the sweet talking for your wife or something like that. Because at this point she assumes that
the blonde is
his wife. Because then later they go back and then the blonde starts talking about, oh, dad, da-da-da-da, growing up, da-da-da-da. And she was like, oh, your dad?
That's right.
Oh, you're not married. Oh, he's single.
Right. And then they're like, we're besties now.
Yeah.
She's like, we can be friends because he's hot. I don't know why I have this. Oh, man. Okay.
Anyway, after the whole orchid thing, and she shuts him down because she thinks he's flirting with her when he's married, and that's not cool.
And then about 2 seconds later, they're standing by the sensor that was broken.
Yeah, because I guess there was a broken sensor. I don't know if they mentioned that earlier in the movie. If they did, I did not catch it at all.
Well, the light was blinking. Sensor 3 was blinking. That was the problem.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And
so,
he says, looks fine to me. And then they take the sensor off its little pole and take it apart. And it's like just been like torn up all on the inside. She goes, it doesn't look fine to me.
And then after, so they're each holding bits of the sensor that has been torn apart. And they're both just like, oh, we better get back. So they toss the remains of the sensor.
Nature Boy, who is in love with the swamp and all things swamp,
tosses the discarded electronics, destroyed electronics into the swamp, and they just head back to the boat and head back to the church lab.
Church lab
is what I call it, the super secret church lab.
Just kind of like, okay.
Yeah. Like, you're not just going to, take that back to the lab and try to repair it. You're just,
going to toss it down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you even had to carry it. You just The boat was
The
right
boat
there.
was right there. Just
Put it
toss
in
it
the
into the
boat.
boat, toss it in the other direction, and it would land in the boat.
So
But meanwhile, we find out once they get back to the church lab that the scientist has been working on a formula.
Which apparently is the formula they've been working on for some time, but she's...
Yeah. So here we're getting a little bit of what's going on in this super secret lab. They're working on a formula. She gets some, it's a glowing green formula, and she gets some on her hand and flicks it on the ground, and it makes an explosion
Because
sound.
scientists reach their hands into glowing green liquid
All the time.
without gloves.
And this is after she knows that it's going to explode. She dips her hands in there and flicks it on the ground. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, it's... And she flicks it like the floor that she's standing on is like planking.
Yeah, it's like wooden planking.
Yeah, it's weird. Like they've built this floor in, I don't know. It's a weird
Yeah,
set.
I don't understand. I don't get it.
It's an odd set.
Steel walls
and a wood plank floor
in a swamp.
In a swamp.
Underground.
It's not going to work.
No.
Not without a lot more money than I think they were putting into that place. So Science Bro and his new, wait, no, not his new girlfriend yet because she thinks they're married.
Right.
They come down and he's like, ooh, I'm going to put my lab coat back on because I haven't had it on the whole show, but I got to show you that I'm working now.
Oh, no, he had it on the first scene when they were fishing for the possum.
Oh, I missed that. I thought he just had a nice shirt. But he puts his coat back on because he's working. And he's talking about, look at this, look under this electron microscope, which I'm not even sure if that's what it was. I don't know how this worked, but it seems like it wasn't that powerful. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know enough about science.
I just said cue science babble right here.
Cue
something
science
about
babble.
How they've successfully merged a vegetable cell with an animal nucleus.
A simple vegetable cell with an unmistakable animal nucleus.
Yeah.
And she's looking at it like, yeah, I totally see that.
Oh, yeah.
On that blurry screen.
I understand.
I completely understand. And she says a word, science word, and he's like, yeah, you get it. His eyes light up and he's like, whoa, finally a woman I can relate to. She's smart. So he's trying, I'm not understanding exactly because he's like, imagine a plant with the aggressive will to survive of an animal.
Yeah. So that was their whole thing. Like they merged animal cells with plant cells to make the plants more hardy so they can grow vegetables in harsh environments.
And he says, what does he say? Like he's like wheat in the desert and then he says like
tomatoes
corn,
in the desert.
Tomatoes in the desert and corn in America. Or was it corn in Africa? Because I was like, wait, did he just say corn in America? Like we have an entire
even know.
Of corn.
Yeah, corn.
We have several states of corn.
Native to the Americas.
I mean,
so
it's from here. I don't know.
I'm
not sure what is. I would have to like probably listen to that. It might be corn in Africa.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's like, I have this orchid here that somehow I didn't carry it into the building, but now it's in the building. It's the same orchid he picked for her.
Yeah.
Now it's in the building. Anyway.
So they put it in a beaker of water and add a bit of the serum to it. And then they just sit and stare at it for a solid 3 seconds.
Oh, wait, they don't just sit. They all lean in really close.
They lean in and the camera zooms in.
To this glowing liquid that literally just exploded.
Yeah.
But they're going to drop it in here. It'll be fine.
Yeah. It's cool. Let's feed it to this plant. Nothing happens. And so the lady, we still don't know her name at this point, do we?
No, we don't know her name.
No. So the lady is not impressed. She's like,
oh,
is something supposed to happen? And he's like, and like Science Bro gets kind of annoyed that she even asked that because it's a plant. It's a plant. It could take days or even weeks, maybe even months.
Plants have to grow, man. And so Science Sis makes a few notes in the journal and then puts it back in a lockbox on the wall and pats it lovingly.
Yes.
Because I always do that when I put my journals away.
Yeah.
Good journal. Well done. Yeah. I pulled you out 5 minutes ago. I wrote 5 words in you and now I'm putting you back.
Yep. I wrote,
have a nice nap.
I wrote, pat, pat, just to make sure the audience knows the notes are important.
Yeah. I always pat my journal when I put it in the lockbox.
Pat, pat.
Pat, pat.
So then when she closes the wall safe or whatever it's in, the lockbox,
Yeah.
I don't know, bro scientist has discovered plants growing from the floorboards
The boards.
where she had flicked the serum.
The boards actually grew plants. They grew back into the trees that they were made of,
Right.
which is apparently a pine of some sort.
Yeah. They were pine needles.
I get pine wood.
Yeah.
Pine is a cheap lumber. Cheaper than oak. I mean, see, they really chinsed out on this slab floor. Went pine instead of oak.
They
or
blew their
steel.
budget on the steel and the security.
Steel walls.
Yeah. So yeah, their serum works. They found out. The
And then
bro
he,
scientist is so excited that he grabs the lady and kisses her.
and she's like totally into it now. She's
And, like,
grinning big time.
The
She's
sister
like,
watches awkwardly.
yeah, she's like,
She's like,
oh
"Oh,
my gosh, you're weird,
okay.
awkward.
That's my brother kissing a lady he just met. Cool."
So, but then our unnamed girl, lady, smart DC chick, is like, I'm going to go tell. And he's
Everybody
like, yeah, we
else.
got to tell this news. It's great news. So she runs out of the lab and she runs out into and I'm calling it a compound, but it's basically the churchyard. There's like the abandoned church, a rickety cabin, and then like another even smaller rickety cabin
Yeah.
and the dock. She runs out and she's like, Ritter.
Ritter
And-
is the Aussie.
No, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. And
We only find out later that he is actually her superior.
yeah,
Because she tries to, anyway.
which is weird
yeah.
because he's like not having her at this thing right now. I don't understand
Yeah.
it, but
I don't know what's.
she's like, hey, Ritter. A voice is like, he's in the command center. So she runs back to the security room, which was the first one she came to, and no one's in there. But then as she's getting ready to turn around, it's Timu Rambo. That's his new name, Timu Rambo.
Rambo. No,
Timu
what
Rambo.
happens first is she goes.
Oh, right,
And-
the camera.
Yeah, she sees security
Sensor
monitors.
3 is still broken, by the way.
Yeah.
Because you
And-
threw it in the swamp.
She has like 2 seconds of warning if she sees a guy stumble into one of the security cameras and falls over. And so like,
Gunshot.
we're under attack. And then she turns around and Timu Rambo is there.
And then she grabs like this small little propane cylinder or something, a little small tank, and just clocks the
Clocks
guy
him.
with it, which I'm like, you go, girl.
Yeah. And then she like starts running and runs into another one and like takes him down
Takes him
and
down
punches
with
him
one
several
punch.
times. Yeah.
Like,
And so we're like,
bam.
dang, lady can fight. Like, this is cool.
Yeah, she's like, all right, this girl's from DC. I said, dang, this girl has a hook. Oop, Rambo has her.
And then I say, oh, hey, the lady can fight. Nice. Now
Nice.
she has a gun. Oh, now she doesn't.
Yeah, she had a gun for like 0.2 seconds.
Yeah. And then someone else came up behind her with a gun. And
A
she
bigger
got-
gun.
Yeah. And then so she got disarmed. So they captured her and used her to get into the church lab. They
'Cause it's
knocked her out
fingerprint key.
first and held her fingers onto the thing. So she's knocked out. She's out of the picture. She's in this little entryway where the fingerprint pad is. And they go down into the lab. The scientists are like, oh no, my work. I don't know.
I just like looked at my notes and totally zoned off.
Yeah, I know.
I totally zoned out. So yeah, he's
So,
like,
Timu Rambo and the other mercs that came with him are just like antagonizing these scientists, like teasing
I
them
have
like
a note.
you do.
Rambo sounds more intelligent than he looks, but not by much, because he does kind of spew a few
Yeah,
like
he
common
gets
sense
sciencey.
things, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's not here just for the muscle
Yeah.
and the greasy hair and the red bandana. Oh,
Yeah.
did I mention he had the red bandana tied around his head?
Oh, that's why we
Because-
call him Rambo.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's, they're pulling guns, and Alec is like protecting his sister because he's a man.
Yeah.
And then he's like, Ritter, get down here.
And so Ritter walks in, but then there's a twist because Ritter says Ritter's dead. And there's a dramatic Mission Impossible style ripping off of the mask.
It's perfect facial mask.
Yeah.
And he peels it off, and it's the bad guy
It's the
named
bad guy.
Arcane.
Arcane, who had a German accent for 0.2 seconds.
And then it went to kind of French English and then shifted slightly back to German.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't want to offend anybody, so they offended everybody.
Yeah. So they like, give yourself an accent, but don't make it identifiable.
Right. Let it shift. Let it be fluid.
Yeah. He's accent fluid.
Yeah, he's actually. The actor himself is French, so I think he kind of like kept shifting back into that.
Yeah.
But then later on, he actually definitely has a British accent, like a posh British accent for a while.
Yeah.
It's weird. They didn't have a good language coach. His accent is unknown.
Unknown. We'll just say that. So he's the evil guy.
He's
Arcane.
that guy.
Bro and sis scientists freak out and try to make a run for it. Sister ends up getting shot.
Oh, yeah.
Bro freaks out. Gets real mad.
He runs over to his sister.
Real sad.
Real sad.
There's a kerfuffle.
There's a kerfuffle. He tries to get away from Rambo. And
He tries to go after Arcane with the serum. Rambo sort of intercepts, and the serum splashes all over Scientist Guy, and he falls down and lights himself on fire.
Somehow he just blows up.
Well, because we know that the stuff blows up on impact.
Yeah, which is like he just like he douses himself in it and then falls, which makes it explode.
Yeah.
So he's now on fire. And he runs up the steps, out the door, across the compound, down the dock, and into the water, which then proceeds to like have all these like explosions, little mini explosions in the water for quite some time. And then I see you have that link up, so I'm going to let you. I love this. This is what we looked this up.
So we did a little bit of digging. Like the first time we watched this movie, we noticed that this guy, this stunt man, was crazy on fire.
Crazy on fire.
And we were like, wow, that's kind of unusual for a stunt man. And then we were just like, oh, I wonder if they filmed that all in one take. Like, I wonder how many takes it took
to get that amount of fire. Because when he comes out of the building, there's like this explosion. Like, it's almost like he had fire. He was on fire going up the steps, but when he came out of the building, it like supernova, I think the comment is.
Yeah.
It's like this explosion of fire as he bursts out of this building and starts to run across this compound. And it's not like 10 feet to the water. It's a long run.
Yeah, it's down like some steps and down a ramp and a dock and then into the water.
Yeah, like it's a long take.
Yeah.
But go ahead with the post that you found.
So, did we mention this movie was written and directed by Wes Craven? I don't think we did.
I had it right at the beginning of my notes too, and I didn't mention it.
I had it at the end of my notes. That's the problem. So, in the DVD commentary of this movie, Wes Craven talking about the stuntman Tony Cesare, who was he's a stuntman that specialized in being set on fire.
Yes, he was a fire guy.
Tony Cesare. He did burns in A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Terminator, Ghostbusters, and Rambo: First Blood 2.
Which also came out in the same year that this movie did, but earlier.
Oh, that's funny.
So, yeah, because I was like...
Team Rambo.
I was like, is this... And I'm like, oh, yeah, Rambo came out earlier this year, which is fabulous.
So I'm going to quote Wes Craven in the commentary. He says, he was completely fearless. He never got burned. He taught himself how to do it by trying various chemicals on himself around the family swimming pool and setting himself on fire. And he said, oh, whenever it would get too hot, I just jump in the pool. He had discovered this special formula. You think fire is fire and it's all the same temperature, but actually different things burn at very different temperatures. The industry had discovered that rubber cement burns at a relatively low temperature, but he found something that burns even lower, so he could do really long burns.
Which is nuts.
Yeah. So that the outside burn from the building to the swamp was done in one long take. Let's see. It says he burst through the landing, fell to the ground. He got up again, ran to the end of the dock. They said that Cesare coated his eyelids with protective gel. So he had to do that whole run across the lawn, onto the dock, and into the water with his eyes closed.
Which is insane.
Yeah. They said that the special effects team actually used too much of the gel. So when the burning gel, the actual gel, not the protective stuff over his eyes. So when he came through the door, the fire gets a lot bigger and hotter than anybody expected. And when you watch the sequence, you can compare the relatively controlled burn when like inside the building when he's running to the door. You know,
it's just
like a normal
it
amount
looks
of
like your
burn.
typical stunt
Yeah.
burn. Yeah.
Yeah, they said the supernova that explodes at the beginning of the outdoor shot, but Cesare made it to the water and came out unharmed.
Yeah, it was nuts. Like, I mean, if I were looking at this, I would be like, okay, they film him coming out the door and then coming towards the camera for a few steps, then cut, and then film the run across the lawn, then film but it was all like just one
take.
long burn.
And I think the first time we watched it, we actually went back and watched that scene again, or maybe we just looked up a clip of it.
Yeah, I think we did a clip, and it was, I was impressed. I was like, that's a long burn, because I'm afraid of fire, but I'm amazed that these stunt guys, you know, they do this scene.
Yeah, they get in their fire suits
and they get in their
light
fire suit and they
on fire.
like, yep, sure, light her up, let's go, and then run, and it's an insane scene to watch.
Yeah.
But like that explosion as he comes out the door.
It's even cooler to watch knowing the behind the scenes special effects stuff. Like this is a formula that this guy created for himself to get those really long burn scenes.
All in one cut.
Yeah.
And he did this with his eyes closed, which is like, it's not a straight path. Like he comes out a door, across a porch, down steps.
And then falls.
And then
has to navigate to a narrow dock.
Yeah.
And
yeah, when we say dock, it's like maybe 4 or 5 feet wide. It's just a path out a little bit away from the land that they could pull a boat up to.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I'm like, what? But now, back to this. Huh?
I thought that was cool, though.
I thought it was fabulously cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really impressive.
Yeah. But back to the movie. Scientist bro burned, jumped in the swamp, presumed dead.
Sis is dead. Our DC chick is nowhere to be seen, and the lab's on fire.
Yep. So, what I said, he runs and jumps into the swamp, presumably dead. Or is.
Or is. So, the evil guy.
The evil accent fluid guy.
comes out,
watches them burn. People are looking for the scientist guy. They figure he's dead because they don't see him come up out of the swamp.
Yeah, he never comes out of the swamp. And then this guy that I call this one of the commandos. I call him Leroy the entire time. And then at the end I go, oh, his name's Bruno.
Oh.
I was calling him Leroy the whole time. And I just was like, so Leroy comes out. And he's like,
just say bald guy.
He comes out at the lab's on fire and there's a little bit of chaos happening. And Leroy / Bruno comes out and hands Arcane these books, the notebooks with the big, like, I got the books. And he's got this happy grin,
such a cheesy grin.
smile.
Like,
he's so happy.
We did it, boss.
Yeah, I got the books. And Arcane's like, oh, good job. With his accent. I don't know where it was going.
But it's now Russian.
I don't think it was actually, I don't know. There was like a brief moment of Russian at some point.
You sounded Russian.
Oh, I sounded Russian. Okay, I'm sorry. Good job. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm tired.
So he gets the top secret notes, or so he thinks.
Yeah.
He orders Timu Rambo and the other mercs to kill everybody and burn all the buildings. But the lady escapes.
She's like, I say hiding with air quotes because she's just crouched down by a tree.
Yeah.
I also have to mention that
last time we saw her, she was unconscious in the lab.
Yeah. And the building now has no underground. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
It's literally like there's a few walls. There's no staircase going down into the lab.
No.
The remains of the lab are now on land.
On the surface.
And bits of building kind of strategically placed around it, burning. And she's like kind of ducked behind a tree that is in the middle of the building. It's really weird.
Or like on the edge of the building, maybe.
I'm like, she's like right there.
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of moving around. They never walk around the tree because like she's right there.
Yeah. And it shows her holding the actual.
She's got one of the journals.
One notebook that, the Pat book.
the Pat book.
Yeah.
The important book.
Yes.
The end book. And she like, oh, wait, there's a scene. There's one guy who's basically like loot the bodies.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I got watches, I got this, and check out this locket. And Bruno's there now, Bruno/Leroy. And he's like, let me see that. And he takes the locket and he kind of looks at it. And then when that guy wanders off, Bruno goes and he hangs the locket on the tree.
Very lovingly hangs it on the newly grown pine tree that
came out of the floorboards. That didn't burn at all.
Yeah.
So, and he hangs it on there, and then he kind of like looks around to make sure nobody saw this moment of kindness.
Yeah.
And he leaves.
The guy that did loot it said he got it off the woman.
Oh, yeah, the woman.
He doesn't specify which woman.
No.
We find out later that it's the sister scientist.
Yeah. So then Bruno leaves, and our DC chick, I'm just going to call her DC.
I just call her the lady.
The lady.
Because we don't even learn her name.
I know. I'll tell you when we learn her name. Way later.
When she introduces herself to the kid. Yeah.
Random. Like halfway through the movie.
Yep.
So she tucks the journal like behind some
bushes.
Still burning bushes.
Yeah.
And
it'll be safe there.
The roots of a tree. It's fine.
Yeah.
Fine. And she's like starts sneaking off, and Timu Rambo grabs
Rambo
her.
Catches her. Oh no.
But she
puts up a good fight, but they get her into a boat.
Fight. Yeah.
They get her into a boat and are
this part cracks me up because now Timu Rambo has a cigar that he's got clenched between his teeth.
Yeah.
And he's like,
they throw.
I put Rambo is everywhere. Oh, he has a cigar now.
Yeah.
He's like, we don't have all day, and I want to teach this lady how to swim. So they're in a boat paddling because apparently this boat doesn't have a motor. So they're paddling out into the swamp for some reason, and he's like, got her, and he's like, I'm going to teach her how to swim.
That's how you properly dispose of bodies in the swamp. You let the gators take care of them.
This isn't a body. This is a person. But he's like, the first lesson is dead man's, and she bites the crap out of him and dives into the water.
Yeah.
And then he's
half dives, half he throws her
falls into the water. Yeah, I don't know exactly. But she's in the water.
She can swim, but she doesn't swim away from the boat.
She tries to swim
He leans
back
over the boat, and just like as she's swimming in the swamp, he reaches and manages to get her.
Trying to hold her head underwater.
She doesn't swim out of the way though.
There's literally nothing. There's no reason for swim away from the boat, maybe?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Swim away from the people trying to kill you. But he reaches out and holds her head underwater.
Until she like sinks underwater and the bubble starts, the struggling stops, the slowing, the bubbles stop.
Also, did you notice how many bubbles there were? It's like a burst of bubble. Burst of bubble.
Yeah.
Burst of bubble, burst of bubble, burst of bubble.
Just keep coming up, and I'm like, what's going on underwater?
That lady has a crazy lung capacity if she had that much air in her lungs.
Yeah. And so he's like leaning over the boat, like the edge of he's leaning so close to the water, the edge of the boat is like just a few inches above the water. And he's like, say hello to your boyfriend, baby.
I wrote that down too.
That was one of the most excellent lines. One of the excellent lines I mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know what happens next, right? The big green hand shoots out of the water.
Yeah.
And pulls him in. And there's like this massive struggle, and he pops up, shoot the bleep thing. Yeah. And everybody's just kind of like,
what is happening?
What is happening? Like the guys on the boat are just like, oh
no, what do we do? Meanwhile,
our leaders in the water were useless. And the next thing you see is this big green humanoid creature carrying Linda off in the distance. Like,
Linda?
I don't know where Linda came from.
That was the sister scientist's name.
Oh, I do. I have a note later on going, oh, her name's not Linda. Even though I wrote Linda like 40 times in my notes.
No.
So he's carrying her,
the lady,
DC across out of the swamp, like hundreds of yards away. They're in the distance all of a sudden. And I'm like, how did he get way over there? He like just traveled by tree? Did he have that spell? So. Travel by plant? Tree stride? I don't know.
He's got magic swamp powers. Except when he's walking away dramatically, he can't just fade into the swamp. He's just
got to walk away for like 20 minutes. So they get Rambo back on the boat.
Swamp Thing uses one solitary branch to hide.
He sets DC down kind of in a little cluster of bushes, but there's this big, like it's just clustered behind her.
She's still in her red shirt, by the way.
Yeah.
She's very
and she's
visible.
like semi-conscious.
So he takes one branch and puts it over her legs. And that's good enough to hide her.
Good. That's fine. And then he like fades away.
To go fight the bad guys.
To fight the bad guys. She's like, oh, my head. Oh,
and then she coughs a little bit.
And then this guy 100 yards away steps out from behind a tree and he's like, ha, ha, ha. And he brings his gun up really slow and gets ready to shoot her. And then this green arm shoots out and like jerks him behind the tree. And there's one single gunshot.
And it alerts the others.
It alerts the everyone. And
but then
there's
everything
like
goes quiet.
silence.
And then...
Except for Linda, who coughs again. Freaking her
Not
name's
Linda.
not Linda.
It's not Linda.
I'm stuck with Linda now. DC goes, I got the black lung pop.
I got the black lung pop. So the Swamp Thing goes and he's trying to sneak up on everybody else in the boat, but the lady does not stay hidden. She goes and wanders around and leans up against a tree, and more people are finding her. So Swamp Thing is having to just protect her the whole time.
Yes, yeah. Like,
why didn't she stay hidden?
Sit still.
Yeah.
Just be still.
Like,
quit moving around.
Yeah.
They're past you now. If you make noise, they're going to come back.
Yeah.
But then, like, there's a noise and the one guy spins around and shoots and he shot his friend. He's like, oh, Tyrone shot Willie. I think that's what he says later. Tyrone shot Willie. Like, okay.
Okay. I have squishy, squelching, and slurping noises as the commandos sneak through the swamp looking for the lady.
Oh my gosh.
Spooky swamp. The
Spooky
commandos
swamp.
decide to leave because they cannot.
So,
They
like,
just
all that's
can't
left
handle
right
it.
now is Bruno and Rambo. And Bruno turns to look at Timo Rambo and he's like, maybe we should. And Timo Rambo's like, get the hell out of here. And they're like, skedaddle.
Leave.
Because he's suddenly, when there's only two guys and one of them is Bruno Leroy, he's very afraid now.
Yeah.
I put, Rambo, are you scared?
Aw. Scared. Cut scene.
To a rather lovely plantation style house in the middle of the swamp.
In the middle of the swamp. Yeah, I said, and now we're at a mansion? Still in the swamp? Shrug.
And he's like reading the journals and he's like, oh, this work is astonishing. And he's pontificating on all this stuff. And there's this
he's like, talent does what it can. Genius does what it must.
And there's
nice
this like
quote from the evil genius.
There's this cute blonde. She looks pale. I mean, like, this is like vampire fodder is the look she's got going on here. Like, super pale, super like half asleep, like dazed. And she's just staring at him like, you should sleep, sir. You're so tired. You work so hard. And I'm like, oh, girl, you're about to be an experiment.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She's not, though. She never
But
became
he's
an
like,
experiment.
I can't. It's so near. It's all right here. Have some coffee, sir, while I stare at you, hoping you notice me. So he starts flipping through and he's like, we're so close. We're so close. And then he's like, the last journal entry is 2 weeks ago. Bum, bum, bum.
How many journals were there?
There were only 6, sir.
So
This
he
one
finds out.
ends 2 weeks ago.
He finds out the notes are incomplete.
Rambo and the boys got to go back to the swamp. But before that, we get this roar of...
I say, back to the swamp where Swamp Thing is yelling in pain. But it never shows him. He just spooks some birds.
I wrote, pain, rage, anger, question mark.
Right? I have another note about that the next time that happens.
There's a lot of pain, rage, anger, question
Were they
mark?
just angry yells or did something happen to him? We don't know.
And then Arcane, we cut back and he's on, you let her get away. Go back and get the girl. How did they find out? Some other chick comes into the mansion. I've got bad news, sir, or something.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's like, oh, send out the boys. We got to go back and get the journal. And then we cut scene back to the swamp, the unmapped swamp, where
DC
is now running across a road to a payphone
at a gas
outside
station.
of a tiny little one-room service station. The payphone doesn't work, by the way.
But
in case you were wondering.
The one other human being in this place is a kid. Best favorite character ever.
My favorite, Jude, his name's Jude.
His name's Jude.
And his first line
and he watches, as he's watching this lady run up all gross from the swamp.
Gross there. He goes, uh-oh, there goes the neighborhood.
Oh, no. You got it wrong. He says, here comes trouble. He says, there goes the neighborhood when he sees the swamp thing.
Oh, right. I thought he said it with her, too.
Nah.
I do have my note. Uh-oh, here comes trouble.
Here comes trouble.
I love this boy, by the way.
I do
He's got these oversized 80s glasses.
And he's sitting on a rickety chair.
With a fly swatter and a Coke bottle. And I just adored this boy.
Yeah. So the lady uses the payphone. She tries to call her superiors for help. And that superior is
No, the
Ritter.
payphone didn't work. She goes in and she goes, you got a phone? And he just points inside. He's like, And she goes inside. And then she gets on the phone and she's like, she gives all her little code words because now it's all top secret, apparently.
Yeah, now she's like an agent.
She's an agent.
A proper agent. And the operator on the end of the line says she's going to put her through to Ritter, who was just at that secret base. And like the lady was unconscious when we found out that Ritter died and he was unmasked to be the supervillain or whatever. So like she doesn't know any of that, but also like she should have been like, well, Ritter was at the compound. And
she says something like, I think he's compromised, or she says something, but the woman cuts her off and she says, hold, please.
Oh.
And then he picks up. Like he picks up the phone. The Arcane, the bad guy, is in his limo. When he picks up the phone and he's like, hello with my weird accent. And then she's like, Agent so-and-so.
Oh, Ritter.
And then he's like, oh, I got my Aussie accent back now.
But then like, even if she suspected he was compromised, you didn't know it because then she proceeds to spill everything. Including the fact that she has the notes. She's like,
I have the last notebook.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well done, lady. You're not a very good secret agent.
Yeah. So the limo then does a really fast, like 18-point turn. But the Ford Explorer that Timu Rambo and his boys are driving just spins around, U-turn, and they start heading back. At one point, she's trying to get a drink out of the machine, and she's like, does anything work here? And Jude's like, only me.
And this is when we find out her name. She introduces herself as Cable.
Cable. One name.
Yeah.
She's too cool for two names.
Yeah. Oh, wait, let me see. Alice Cable is what IMDb says.
She never once says Alice.
Alice. Never. I don't think so. Finally, we learn her name.
So she gets a Coke and she's like doing press the cold Coke against her sweaty forehead, which this is where I'm like, her hair in this movie, she's got the typical 1980s perm.
Yeah.
She's in a swamp.
Yeah.
And her hair is behaving. And I'm like, oh, no, it's not. Because I have curly hair.
It would not.
No, yeah. I'm sorry. There's way too much hairspray in her hair at that point because she would have been
she's been in and out of the swamp, too.
In and out, like in the swamp.
Yeah. Underwater,
drowned.
Being held underwater.
And her hair's just got, this nice little 80s perm. It's fine.
Yeah.
That bothered me a bit. Anyway, she turns around and goes, your ride's here.
So she looks and sees that it is not, in fact,
her ride.
Her ride. It is the bad guys. So she's like, oh, crap. So she ducks behind the counter.
She does this secret agent leap over the counter and behind it.
Yeah. The roll over the counter.
Yeah. It's like, I'm impressed.
Meanwhile, Jude just kind of walks behind the counter and crouches down.
And she's like, you got a gun here? What kind of place do you think this is? Of course there is. And he hands her this gun that's ancient and she gripes about it.
Yeah.
But then she stay here. And she runs out the back and yells at the guys and takes off running and dives behind some tires as they open up with machine guns.
Yeah. I mean, at least she didn't put Jude in danger.
She did
kudos
hey.
for not putting the kid in danger.
Yeah, kudos for that. But she takes off running across a field.
In her bright red shirt.
And she could run faster than a truck, apparently, through this stuff.
Because a Bronco truck is chasing her.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Through the trees.
So she's and then, so she's running down. She ducks into another field and ducks down. And they drive past and she jumps up immediately and they go, there she is.
The other way.
I'm like, dude, you should have just stayed down for a few more seconds. They would have kept
going.
Driven
away.
But she takes off running.
she was in trees and they were having difficulty keeping up with her, but then she finds a road and starts running on that so they can
Stay
catch up to
on
her.
the road.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a car.
Yeah. Like
Literally it's favored terrain right here.
They're going to catch up to you.
They're going to catch you. So she runs down this road and
then trips on nothing.
Trips on nothing, which I'm not going to fault her for that because I do that on a daily basis, okay? I can't fault her.
Well, you're not a trained agent.
True. Cable, you're useless. So she falls and she doesn't get up. She just falls and the truck is speeding down the road towards her. And then Swamp Thing
comes
right
in,
there. And he like
stops
boxes the truck's ears. Like this literally is that. He just brings his hands together and the front of the truck and stops it dead in his tracks. Like, boom.
So, hey, Swamp Thing's strong.
Yeah, he's pretty.
He's got
pretty,
muscles.
And then he walks around and rips the entire roof of the truck off and flings it into the swamp. Again, littering.
Yeah.
And then begins to throw the guys into the swamp where some of them never to be seen again. I don't know what happens to them.
Yeah,
Few of them are still around.
They're expendable. It's okay.
But now Timu Rambo finally has a gun. Yeah. This is the first scene he really has a gun and he's going to use it.
Timu Rambo.
I can't. Speaking of tongue twisters, Timu Rambo.
Yeah.
But this scene is very short.
It is.
And they take off and
they take off.
They take off running. They just leave.
The commandos are just gone.
They're just gone.
And so Swamp Thing turns to Cable,
who is in the water up to her waist now.
Oh no, she doesn't back up yet. She sees him and like freaks out because she doesn't know what he is.
Oh right.
And then she backs up into the water to get away from the thing that just came from the water. So well done. Good thinking.
And she's like,
and she literally does the whole shoo motion with her hand
shoo.
And says, shoo, go away.
And he looks sad.
He's very sad. He just wants to be loved.
He just wants to be loved.
So he leaves very sadly.
He just walks away. And then Jude's back.
And then Jude shows up. Yay!
Jude shows up. And she's like, huh. And he says, what happened to that? What happened to that truck? And she says, hit a tree. And this is what Jude has the best lines in the movie. Best lines. Must be one of those hit and run kind of trees. Don't seem to be there now. And I write literally, Jude is the best thing to happen to this movie.
Jude is amazing. I love this kid.
He's an adorable kid and I love him.
Yeah. Jude is played by Reggie Batts.
Is this like his only thing?
It's his only movie. Swamp Thing and Hey Jude with Reggie Batts, where he played himself in 2013.
Oh my gosh. So like he did kind of I'm assuming it's going to be a bit of a little documentary about his filming.
It's an interview. It was featured on Shout Factory's Blu-ray release of Swamp Thing.
Oh, okay. So they just so
that's it.
He just did his thing and he was done.
Yeah.
Good for him. So then we cut back to, are they in the boat here or they're like on a...
Jude offers to take Cable to a trapper's cabin for a change of clothes. And I think we pick up like the next day or something.
Yeah, but there's a scene because I have Bruno says, the locals say it's an abdominal snowman.
Oh, abdominal.
Yes. Leroy is a genius.
Oh, bless him.
But Rambo's done. He doesn't want to do this. I think we're back in the plantation at this
We
point.
are. Yeah, I said cut back to the mansion. Timu Rambo, bald guy, who is Bruno, and Evil Genius have a little meeting. Evil Genius is like, he wants the swamp thing.
I want this swamp thing. And I want the notebook.
Yeah.
Find the girl, the beast will follow.
And then we cut to the swamp thing yelling in pain.
Sadness.
Anguish.
I said sadness
anger,
at this point.
Frustration. Use your words, bud. That's what I said. Why are you yelling? He's just yelling and his voice is echoing through the swamp.
A word yet.
Nope.
At any point. So then we cut to the next day. Jude and Cable are in a boat and he's kind of just poling it through the swamp. And she's got new clothes. Apparently the random trapper's cabin has her size.
Yeah. Fortunate.
No bra, though. Just a t-shirt and pants that fit her perfectly.
Yeah.
I said, apparently exactly in her size. Well done.
Yeah.
And then I have this note that literally says, this suit must be sweltering. Because the swamp thing is, we cut to a scene where he's walking back to the
going to
church.
The church lab.
This is the next day. All of that other stuff happened the previous day.
Yeah. There's
been a night of rest. The fight happened at night.
Uh-huh.
And I'm telling you this for a reason. The fight happened at night. They had a whole day of chasing through the swamps, a night's rest. The next morning, he's back at the compound, which is still on fire.
Still burning. Or at least smoldering.
I mean, no, there's like active flames. They're not like roaring, but there's active flames on some of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, we're in a swamp, well known for their humidity and dampness.
It's the fiery swamp.
I guess it's a fire swamp. Wouldn't want to build a summer home here, but some of the trees are quite lovely.
Yeah, just watch out for the ROUSs.
So he's kind of goes into the remains of the lab, which is now above ground. If you'll remember, it is definitely above ground.
He just walks in.
He walks in.
The steel walls are down, but there are still beams up.
The steel walls are just, they have ceased to exist.
They're not, you don't even see them.
They're not even like mangled from the fire. They're gone.
Yeah.
We're just walking through some timbers that are still burning.
Yep.
And there's a shelf.
And a table.
With beakers on it that are blackened by the smoke. And he's kind of like picking them up and kind of looking at them and being sad. And he finds the little locket and he picks it up and opens it. And you see that it's brother and sister. And then you get like this flashback of his sister wearing the locket. In case you missed that in the beginning.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, okay. It's his sister.
Oh, but then you're also like, oh, this thing must be.
It must be
Alec. Scientist bro.
Dr. Holland.
Alec is his name. Yeah.
Alec, the science bro. It's all coming together now.
Oh my goodness.
What? He dumped this stuff on him.
And
became part of the swamp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plant and animal cell.
Yeah.
Fused together.
In just a matter of minutes. I guess the fire accelerated it or something. I don't know.
Yeah. We see him messing around with the beakers, and he lifts up 2 beakers and he's trying to pour the contents of one into the other, even though it's been completely burned. Like, what's in this beaker? So he's like trying to like do something, and he keeps breaking the beakers because his hands are just too strong.
Just too strong.
Oh, no.
Oh, and they're big, meaty, tree-y hands. They're big, like plant matter hands.
Yeah. At this time, Jude and Cable pull up in the boat because she needs to get the notebook too. She goes in. She tells Jude to stay in the boat because he's a kid. He can handle himself. It's okay.
She says, stay here and don't make a sound. And he says,
like,
don't worry.
Don't worry. Oh, yeah.
And she's like, and if you hear something, hide.
Don't worry.
Don't worry. And then he says something else and he says, I'm worried. So she just leaves Jude in the boat
to go into this still burning compound, and she kind of spies on the swamp thing for a little bit and is like freaking out and just sees him messing around with the beakers and breaking them, and then he like smashes a table in rage because he doesn't have his delicate little scientist hands anymore.
And she just pieces out.
And she grabs the notebook and runs.
Jumps back in the boat and she's like, go, Jude, go. And I wrote, Jude, paddle faster. I hear Rambo.
And sure enough, who shows up? But Timu Rambo.
This time he's got boats with motors.
He's in a boat with Bruno and a random expendable that I think doesn't
gets expended.
He gets expended.
But before we cut off to that, we have this moment where Science Bro / Swamp Thing, I think he hears Cable and Jude kind of skedaddling, and he turns and he walks out of the ruins a little bit.
Oh, right.
And sees them kind of paddling off, and he goes back sad, but then he turns around and the orchid is now a massive tree.
Yeah.
Like it is huge, and it has these big, long branches of orchids blooming.
Orchid.
And he just kind of looks at it, and he just puts a cluster of them into his face and inhales.
Oh, he's so tender.
He's so tender and gentle, and he's just like, oh.
Tender Swamp Thing.
I shared an orchid with the woman I used to love that I knew for 15 minutes. And now orchids are so important to me.
Oh.
And then we cut away to the Timu Rambo. Timu Rambo and his buddies in the swamp. But now we're not in the swamp. We're kind of in a delta. There's like tall reeds. It's open sky. There's no trees around. It's a weird location shift.
Yeah, and they're on
airboats. Yeah.
And it's like it's suddenly an exciting boat chase.
Yeah, because they see Cable and Jude in their little paddle boat.
Yeah.
And they're like, ha, we're going to get her. It takes them forever to get across this 100 yards of water, even though they have a motor and Cable has a paddle boat.
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. And somewhere in the middle, Swamp Guy comes out of this tall cluster of reeds and begins to just roar.
Yeah.
And
so the commandos see the Swamp Thing instead and decide to go after him.
They're going to go after him instead.
Yeah.
Even though I believe Arcane gave specifics get the girl and he'll come.
Yeah.
You don't have to
You don't have to chase him.
You don't have to chase him, just get her. But now Rambo's like, I'm going to get this guy because I'm Rambo.
I'm macho. A lot happens in this scene, but all I wrote was epic boat chase scene in the swamp as they try to get Swamp Thing. Slow-mo boat wreck, dramatic fall by Swamp Thing as they shoot him. A lot of dramatic falls, actually. But he's a sturdy boy. Then Wilhelm
gun
scream.
the motor, punch the boat, use grenades. Attack.
Attack. At some point, there is a Wilhelm scream in there.
There is.
And then I say, boat explosion, cool. But Swamp Thing didn't kill Timu Rambo and Bald Guy.
No.
Bruno.
Everybody, they're the only two that make it out, I think, of this boat, which involved 3 boats full of, each had 3 guys, I think.
Yeah.
But,
and so Swamp Thing is just taking boats out and tossing guys into the swamp.
And then 2 boats hit each other and explode. Because that's what boats do when they hit each other.
Yep. Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that. I have fun fact. When 2 boats hit each other, they explode.
Right after that, I have scene transitions like someone went through all the options in PowerPoint and couldn't decide on just one.
Oh, I know. Because when the boats explode, there's the scene shift is an explosion shape, like the comic book explosion shape. There's pointy edges and it
expands, and then when it contracts again, it's the next scene.
It's the next scene. Which honestly, I mean, you know what? I'm good. I'm okay with that.
So then we go back to Cable and Jude. Cable gives Jude the notebook and tells him to stay in the boat while she wanders somewhere.
Apparently, she now knows her way around the swamp.
I don't know what her plan is.
Yeah.
Why would you give the kid the thing that you're trying to protect?
Yeah.
And tell him to stay in the very visible boat.
Very visible boat. That doesn't move fast at all.
The guys who were chasing you were just on boats.
Yeah.
I gave her kudos earlier for not putting the kid in danger, but now
literally just giving him the bait, right?
Yeah. Of course, a few seconds later, after she leaves the boat and starts walking, we hear, Cable, from Jude.
And she's like, shh.
And the sound is cut off.
And then nothing.
Nothing. She turns around and she sees the boat floating in the swamp with an unconscious Jude inside. Possibly dead. We don't actually know.
Possibly dead. We don't know right now. She takes a few steps. She goes, oh no. And Rambo has her.
Timu Rambo's there.
Timu Rambo's got her. And takes her
away.
Takes her away. Gone. And then you see
Swamp Thing
comes walking up and sees Jude in the boat. And he kneels down and kind of picks him up and looks at him, and the side of Jude's face, he's obviously been hit pretty hard. It's kind of bloody.
It's all bloody.
And Swamp Thing just puts his hand on Jude's head, and his hand begins to glow because apparently he now has mutant healing powers. And Jude, this is where Jude looks up and he scrambles and puts his glasses on, and he looks up and he goes, oh shit, there goes the neighborhood.
Which is
and then he hands the Swamp Thing the notebook.
Oh no, he was like, you're friends with Cable? And of course Swamp Thing says yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Which is is that I think he just nods.
He just nods. He doesn't actually say anything.
He hasn't spoken yet. He's only screamed in rage / pain / anger / sadness / anguish / confusion.
I don't know.
/ maybe he's just the animal beastie side of him coming out. He likes to make sounds. I don't know. So then we cut back to the boat. A nicer boat. This one, Arcane's actually on.
Arcane's on the boat.
There's this random candelabra in the middle of the boat too, which is
very fancy. Yeah, maybe he was going for the gothic swamp vibes too.
I don't know, maybe, yeah.
And
what would be cool? A candelabra.
Yeah.
Timu Rambo has Cable, and he's he says some smart aleck thing, and then he kisses her.
And it's like, what do you think of that?
What do you think of that? And she just like knees him right
She
in the
knees him
groin,
hard in the nards and pushes him off the boat.
pushes him off the boat and then dives off the boat and starts swimming, but he's like right behind her.
Yeah.
She gets to land. He gets out of the water and somehow he's got this 3-foot long machete.
Oh, yeah.
Or like it's a 2-foot long machete that
He has
pulls.
a sword now.
And I'm like, where did he pull the same pocket that he had the snake in, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Tactical pants of holding.
So he goes and running after her with this like machete, but she runs ahead and she slams right into Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh no. And she starts backing away and he goes, Cable, which is the first thing he said.
Yeah.
And she's like staring at him in shock and she faints.
Yeah.
She just faints.
I said the lady faints.
The lady faints. Rambo, I can't even do it. I can't even do it. TR, I'm just going to call him TR.
No, we could call him Rambo. I like that.
Okay, Rambo.
He's about to die
I'm going to
anyway.
start laughing hysterically now.
Rambo swings at Swamp Thing, who I've been calling TR in my notes.
Oh, that's funny.
Or no, not TR. ST.
Yeah. ST, okay.
Anyway, Rambo swings his machete and cuts off Swamp Thing's arm.
Cuts it off, like at the bicep.
Yeah.
Like there's like just a little stump.
Stump.
Oh, he roars. And legit just with his other hand grabs this guy's head and just squeezes.
Like a grape.
Oh, this is where Cable faints.
Oh, yeah, that's where
she's
faints.
Like watching this and like it cuts away. She just like her face is like horrified and she just collapses. And then we see like Rambo's body just kind of drop. We see like from the waist down and his like legs are a little twitching and then still. And
then we have a little romantic moment.
There's like a weird romantic moment
with Cable and Swamp Thing. Does he carry her?
He's like leaning against a tree and he's got her like kind of cradled against his chest.
Right. So she wakes up
and she's almost about to panic.
And he hands her an orchid.
And he says,
family. Much beauty in the swamp if you only look.
And that's something he said to her right before he tried to kiss her the first time. And she was like, whoa, dude, save it for your wife.
Right.
And then he tells her again about the orchid, the species and genus and all of that. And
so she figures out that it's him.
Alec? She's like, oh.
Does it hurt?
Yeah, she looks at his arm and she's like, does it hurt? Only when I laugh.
And then he starts laughing.
And she's like crying. And she's got this look of horror, intrigue, pity. Like there's just like her face goes through all these different emotions. And then she's like, does your arm hurt? And he's like, oh. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then like she leans in and I'm like, oh my God, is she going to kiss the swamp tree man? And she just kind of buries her face in his chest and he kind of pats her head with his good arm.
Yeah.
And then suddenly like there's like cutscene and she's in the swamp taking a bath. This is the water we were afraid to be in at the beginning of the movie because gators, snakes.
Yeah, because it's
everything will kill you here. You're in a swamp.
Swamp Thing watches creepily from the bushes, but is sad because he's so ugly and will never find love. So he starts walking away very sadly.
Very sad. And he roars in sadness. I'm going to go with sadness this time and throws the book, 30 feet away.
Yeah. But then the goons show up again.
Yeah. Cable comes walking out of not where she was a moment ago.
Not the water.
She's like coming out of a
fully dressed,
of reeds, fully dressed.
Yeah.
And she's like looking around. And she walks up a little bit forward and she sees the bad guy. She's like, oh
no.
And he points behind her and there's like a bunch of commandos again. Apparently has a limitless supply. And she's like, no. She screams and then Alec comes running up and then it's a trap.
And then a net drops from above.
Drops on him from above, which is weird. Like, it's just weird. Like, okay, you knew she was going to come in this exact spot.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay.
So he fights for a little bit, but then these, like, 8 guys overpower him. And he says something. I didn't write it down. He's like, he knew they would be caught. And
cheesy line.
It's some cheesy line about, it had to be this way.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then...
Oh, no. In order in order to end it, you must go through it or something like that.
Some random.
So,
I'm like, okay. And then Leroy slash Bruno comes up and he's like grinning, cheesy grin, and he hands Arcane the final notebook. He's like, I found it again. He's the happy boy, little Leroy. He's like, I done good.
Yeah. Look what I got, boss.
Look what I got. I got it. It was just over there in the woods because he literally threw it like 20 feet away.
Yeah.
Not really great. Do you know how easy it would be to just, I don't know, toss it into the swamp?
Yeah.
And never to be seen
again? Like if you want to get rid of it.
Just put it in the water, not
or
on
just
the path.
Just burn it.
I mean, the camp is still burning. You could have just left it there. I mean, I don't know. So then we cut to a fancy party.
Yeah, suddenly they're having a banquet, a celebration banquet.
We're in this mansion that the first time we were here, it was all white walls and very ritzy, classy. But now we're kind of like in a dark room that is nothing but candles.
Red walls, candles.
And candles.
It's like almost medieval vibes.
I think he heard you say Gothic Swamp and he was like, yes,
I like that.
Gothic Swamp. That's what we're doing.
In his weird accent.
Change it. Change it all. And there's like,
everybody's drinking out of goblets.
Yeah, there's like 50 like obviously wealthy people because the women are dressed in silks,
fine
like
jewelry.
low cut. Their jewelry. The men are in suits. Some of them look kind of scruffy looking. I don't know. I'm like, what's this guy doing?
It's like a mixture of these rich people and the commandos, like the mercenaries.
Oh yeah, the mercs are still there.
Yeah,
and Bruno's at like. Arcane's at one end of the table and Bruno's at the other end of the table and he's got a white turtleneck on.
Yeah.
All of a sudden. And
he's being congratulated for finding the notebook.
Our guest of honor, Bruno, which I think this is the first point we actually hear his name.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, oh, his name's Bruno, not Leroy.
Not Leroy. So they all toast Bruno and oh no.
Oh, Bruno.
The super spish evil genius just slipped him a dose of the formula.
Yeah. And Bruno's like, he's like into it. He's like, hey, when are we going to get to, how soon is this going to be a thing? When are we going to get to see, what are you going to experiment on? What's going to be your first thing? And he's like, well, I thought that the privilege should be to our guest of honor. And then Bruno, who's been fine up to this point, despite having just drank this thing, immediately starts twitching. And like
foaming at the drooling,
foaming, drooling, green goo,
nasty boils or whatever is forming on her skin.
I like twigs start coming out of his face. I said he's coming out in hives. Twigs.
I don't know. It's a
and he's like twitching,
job.
And he's kind of like I don't know, like, and then he's like, help me, and people are kind of like half staring at him, half freaking out. And what kills me is like in the scene. The guy that's like literally 2 spaces down from him at the table picks up a drink and takes a drink. And I'm like, dude, are you seriously going to take a drink after what you just saw? Yeah. And I'm like, I would not be touching anything. I'd be going out back, making myself throw up. Okay. Like, before this happens to me.
So Bruno collapses under the table out of camera.
And everybody is like, oh.
Watching expectantly.
And then... It's 1982. I just need you to keep that in mind.
This is bad.
Because it's at this point, Bruno jumps up on the chair and Bruno is a little person.
Yeah.
But with scraggly hair, pointed ears, and like a beak nose and kind of wild looking eyes.
And sort of like grayish mottled skin.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh crap, I forgot this happened.
Yeah.
And he's like, why didn't it work? And then, like, everybody scatters. Everybody just runs in fear.
Yeah. After that part, I put, yikes.
I'm like,
Just yikes.
Everything is so wrong with this.
Yeah.
So then we cut to
the dungeon.
Because, of course, he has a dungeon.
I wrote in here, this must be a Dsu film because it's super dark and we can't see anything.
Super dark.
Yeah. Evil genius comes down and... talks to the swamp thing and asks like, why didn't it work? He's got Bruno with him and
and he's got the girl.
Tosses Bruno and the girl both in the cell.
The girl gets chained up because of course she does, because she's got like this slinky white silk dress on now.
Oh yeah, they dressed her for the banquet.
As well because she can't show up in swamp clothes.
Yeah.
But she's dressed for the banquet in this slinky white dress, and now they have to like chain her arms up. I'm not sure what the purpose was, just to chain her up, I guess. But
it's,
and Arcane's like, why didn't it work? Where did I go wrong? Why were your notes wrong? And
But then we find out that the formula just enhances what's on the inside. It's what's
you didn't know that, Alex. Shut up.
inside that counts.
It's
my
what's
friends.
inside that counts. It's not the peel, it's the nana.
So yeah, it's what's inside that this formula enhances. So with the swamp thing, he's super strong and has healing abilities. So I guess the scientist had a super strong plant man with healing abilities inside him, just wanting to come out.
I guess like it was he respected nature. He found beauty in the swamp, and he was
Right. So he's
ultimately
like
a calm person, a
tender,
kind person that wanted to do good in the world. So that amplified him. And he literally says like Bruno was small and weak and submissive, and that's why he's become the way he is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, he's standing right there. Like they're like they're talking down to poor Bruno, and I'm just like, man, Bruno.
So
Arcane's
then,
like, you guys can all just stay down here and rot together.
yeah. So he goes back upstairs to his fancy gothic swamp mansion.
Which is now he's back in the pretty white room.
Yeah.
Which opens onto a lovely porch that is right on the
Overlooks
swamp.
But he pours himself a bit of the formula.
I love that he's like, here is a perfectly shaped beaker I could drink out of, but I'm going to pour it into my fancy silver goblet because I'm bougie like that.
Yes. I'm super bougie.
He takes a drink, and this scene, like he walks out to his porch and he says something profound about being brilliant and
ruling the world.
And he takes a drink, and then he hits a little buzzer. It's on the outer banister of the porch, like weather. I mean, come on, guy. He presses this little buzzer, and his little cute vampire thrall girl comes up, and he's like, hey, go tell the other girl to bring me a brandy. And she's like, okay. And she leaves. And I'm like, dude, your bar's like right there. Like 10 feet away.
You were
just
walk
back
there.
there. You just there. Go get your own brandy. And then he goes and
sits in a chair.
There's like he sits in a chair, but then there's like, we cut to the dungeon, and there's a little touching moment where she goes, Alec. He says, Cable. And there's like, soft music. Kind of like, it's so romantic. He's chained to the wall. She's chained to the opposite wall.
There's a small beam of sunlight.
Tiny beam of light
coming in.
Reach for the light, Alec. You can do it. And he stretches up his one good arm, and
but he can't do it.
He can't do it. He can't do it.
And then we cut back to Arcane, who is still sitting in the chair.
In his chair.
Nothing has happened
other secretary brings him a silver tray with the goblet of brandy, and she walks in front of him, kneels down with it, kind of squats to hand it to him.
Yeah.
And then she like, her eyes go wide in horror, and she drops it and runs away. And he's like, wait, what's happening? And he looks down, and his hands are like,
as she runs away, he's like, leave me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He does like,
she didn't need telling, bro.
On it.
Yeah.
But his hands are like starting to like web. His fingers are webbing together.
And they're like swelling.
And then they all like bind together, and then they start swelling and growing apart and larger, and then webbing together again.
I don't know. Like
this
he's
is
going
a really
through
confusing
some horrendous
seconds
transformation.
Yeah, because then like his face starts leaking, and then there's like something coming over half of his face, like a honeycomb or a plastic. Like
it's like the special effects, the makeup people just got random things from the garbage and plastered it to his face.
Like his face is leaking, and then like his hands start leaking this fluid, and I think it's spray foam, because a few seconds he's standing now in front of a door. I think on his porch he's standing, and he's covered. I mean, he's basically in a cocoon.
Yeah.
A hand breaks out, and then this guttural bestial like roar starts, and these claws start peeling away this cocoon. And then we go back to the dungeon,
where Swamp Thing is still trying to reach for the light. Why? We don't know.
Because I wrote down what she says. You thrive on the light.
You thrive in the light.
Reach for it, Alec. You thrive on it. And he finally gets like his fingertips in the light, and then he's like reaches his head up a little bit, so the light's like on his eyes, all Morticia Addams vibe. So his hand and his eyes are at the same level somehow. I don't know how.
I don't know.
And then they show you his stump of arm. and this
starts
little
growing
twig pokes out and it starts growing out. And this little twig, and then like it splits into 5, and there's like these 5 little tiny fingers that make a little fist.
Make a little fist, and it's a cute tiny
and it's this little cute like
hand.
Groot hand.
Yeah.
It's adorable. Arcane's up there like peeling off, and he's like, roar, and he runs in and he grabs the formula and growls at it and slams it on the floor.
I have to say what he looks like, though.
And grabs a sword, because why not?
Yeah, but when he emerges from this cocoon, I have hilarious Spirit Halloween wolf mask.
Wolf mask.
With tiny, tiny little yellow eyes and reddish brown fur, which
and
is like interesting because the dude had black hair.
Yeah. But he also is like, it's a wolf mask, but it's almost like a boar nose. It's a weird, it's a weird kind of wolfman / pigman boar wolf fang teeth.
Yeah, his body we don't really get a good look at until later.
Yeah,
but we do see that he's got like a hair growing down his back.
Yeah,
in patches or whatever.
Yeah, he's also taller and more broad-shouldered, so they got a bigger stuntman than our Louis Jourdan.
Yeah,
bad guy who was very slender. In the dungeon, Alec is absorbing the sunlight. His arm has grown back.
Yeah.
And he just like with the little kind of weird grin breaks the chains, stands up and goes to Cable and breaks her chains. And then Bruno, who's been silent this whole time, goes, I can get you out. And they hear like these growls and roars from above. And he's like, he's taken the formula. This is Bruno now.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, you got to like turn it this way. It's like that in case one of the guards gets locked down here by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Like this happens enough that they have to have a safety switch. So he gets them out, but they're not actually like going out of the house. They're going to another part of the dungeon.
Deeper down into the dungeon.
Yeah. They run down and there's like this big pool of water with the chain around it. And Bruno's like, you got to trust me if you want to survive. This is the well for the house. And I'm like,
it says something about it feeding into a natural spring at the bottom of the swamp.
Swim through that and you'll come out in the swamp. And I'm like, that's not how wells work.
Yeah.
Dive into the well and you'll come out in the swamp.
But then Bruno goes and
Arcane, the wolf pig dog, is coming down the staircase now. It's very like, this is seen as very Phantom of the Opera. It's like, there's like a staircase with gothic candles and he runs towards them and Bruno like dives under his feet
and like trips
watch
him up.
Your step, and he falls.
Have a nice trip.
See you next fall.
Like
as
cracking
he's running
jokes
away, like he's cracking jokes the whole time. Comedian. All of a sudden, I have hilarious, period. So then the scene we cut, and Alec and Cable are now coming up out of the water in the swamp. And
we don't even get to see them swimming through this apparent underground tunnel aquifer thing. I don't know.
Apparently now we're in a hot spring because there's steam and the swamp is boiling. Like there's bubbling and it's all steamy and misty and foggy. I'm like, wait, where are they? But they get out and Alec kind of carries Cable to this one little patch that's of dry dirt and she's got her high heels and her dress on and he's like, we're going to have a romantic moment. But then Arcane comes popping out of the water and he's like, raw.
With the sword.
He's got a freaking long sword. Like he's like, haha. So he attacks, and there's like this big fight where there's
a dramatic fight in the swamp,
flashing at the water, and Alec, like Swamp Thing, like knocks him down into the water, like just punches him, knocks him down into the water, and then just walks away and goes back to Cable.
And then Cable kind of,
there's like a weird transition here because like suddenly Cable's standing, and then Arcane is like right there.
Yeah, Arcane
and he
shows up and stabs her in the boob.
Yeah, like in the top of her boob, because it's like stab people in the rib cage. That's really hard. Anywhere there's ribs, it's not going to work. But anyway, he stabs her and she's like, oh, and she collapses. But now Swamp Thing is
real mad. He's big mad.
He's like big time mad. And he just like breaks off part of a tree and just starts beating the crap out of Arcane.
And I say, he kills Spirit Halloween Wolf with a tree stump. Or does he?
Or ease.
Or ease.
So then he leaves him like smash down in, and he goes back to Alec, and he kneels down.
He goes back to Cable.
Cable. Oh my gosh, I keep switching there. He goes back to Cable, and he kneels down, and he reaches up and pulls a chunk of moss off of his shoulder and puts it on the wound, and then his hand starts to glow.
He does the Healy thing.
And
heals
Alec
her.
wakes up
Not
just
Alec.
God dang it. Cable wakes up just in time to go, behind you.
Behind you.
And there's Arcane with the sword again. Oh, man. And Alec, he's just over it. He's finally
There's another
over
dramatic fight
It's
scene with the
big
sword.
fight.
Yeah.
And he gets him knocked down, and he gets the sword away, and he slashes at him and then stabs it into him. And then stabs the sword like into the ground, and there's like this dramatic scene, this close up on the sword, and just in the distance we see Swamp Thing kind of looking back over his
walking
shoulder,
away, and then he looks back,
and then he walks away,
and then we see Arcane's body just sort of
like
dissolving,
starts to melting and dissolving into the swamp.
I don't know.
And then he goes back to Cable.
He heroically carries the lady, but only just a few steps, because when they start talking again, he sets her down. Like, he lifts her up, carries her literally a couple steps, and then sets her down. And then they start talking.
And she's like got her hand over this moss that's on her bloody chest. And she
it's bloody in one shot. And then when she takes the moss off, there's no blood at all.
There's not even blood on her dress.
Yeah. Where
it's
it used to
spotless.
be. Yeah.
And she like takes the moss, and there's no wound at all.
Yeah.
And she's like just staring at him dreamily, but he has to walk away.
He starts walking away.
She doesn't understand that the swamp calls to Alec. He must go.
The swamp calls, and I must go. And so she's like, wait,
let me go with you. We can work again. And he
holds up his hands.
With these hands. And she's like, I'll be your hands. And then he turns around and he says, you need to heal. You need to tell our story. I'll see you soon.
I will always be with you.
I will always be with you.
Oh my gosh. That's so creepy.
You're not, because you're walking away.
You're not. You're walking away to go
like,
live in a swamp.
Yeah, you're going to go live in a swamp. She stands there and she's all sad. Hey, Jude. Hey, Jude.
Hey, Jude.
Jude pops up. And he's there, and she like grins happily because Jude's alive.
You made it.
I
left you in danger, but
I
you're
left
alive.
you, and you were pretty sure you were dead.
I thought you were dead.
Because he didn't tell me he healed you.
Yeah.
And she gives him a little hug, and they're like besties now.
And then they turn to watch as Alec is still just tromping away from them through the swamp.
The slowest walk away through the swamp the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's just like, and he's walking, and still walking, and still walking, and it's just like this slow.
Cable and Jude just continue to watch him walk
away, and smile. She's got her arm around Jude's shoulder, and they're just grinning happily as he walks into the distance for the next 10 minutes.
Walks, because I guess he can't go very fast in a swamp, even though he's like made from swamp.
He is swamp. And apparently before he could like just appear and reappear at will.
Yeah.
But now he can't because he's sad.
Yeah. He's sad. He's trudging.
He's trudging
through the swamp.
In despair.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, did I mention that the swamp he's now trudging through, the swamp they just left, is no longer bubbly and steamy.
Right. Yeah. It cooled down. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
But anyway, that's the end of the movie.
It's the end of the movie. That's how it ends. And honestly, it's terrible and I loved it.
It's bad, but I liked it.
I'm going to give it...
What do we do out of 5 ravens?
5, yeah.
Okay, so if you didn't listen to our last movie review episode...
Shame on you.
We need to tell them how the raven system works. So ravens are carrion eaters. They like garbage. That's sort of...
And we do too.
We do too when it comes to movies. We like garbage movies. And so the more ravens we rate a movie, the more garbage it is.
But garbage
there's
in a good way.
Yeah. Like there are movies that are absolute crap.
So
that
bad
ravens
that
wouldn't
don't
even
like them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a one raven or less.
No. That would be no ravens.
No ravens. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a movie on the
we
list
won't
that's
even
a no Raven. We're not even
we
gonna.
won't even use our Raven rating on that.
Yeah.
Like those movies don't deserve our Raven ratings. So out of 5 Ravens,
I want to give it 4.
I was gonna
I'm
say
thinking
4 too.
I think 4 Ravens for
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
It's well done, and like I mean, as an '80s kid, there's like a touch of nostalgia for me. I didn't watch it in the '80s, but there is like an '80s vibe that just kind of kicks a little bit of nostalgia
Yeah.
in me, and I'm here for it. So
It ticked a lot of boxes. It had
it had a story.
dramatic sword fight in a swamp. It had a
Unexplained
spirit
sword
Halloween
fight.
mask.
Yeah,
It had a tiny little plant baby arm. It had airboats. It had Rambo.
it had Timu Rambo.
Rambo.
I got it right.
Yay. Oh, and it had a sassy kid.
Sassy kid who
Yeah.
like was honestly the star of the show in my opinion.
Absolute star of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jude was the star. Jude had the best lines.
Yep.
The absolute best lines. And the best little
Here comes trouble.
like he's just so deadpan
Yeah.
in all his delivery, and it's perfection. But yeah, okay, 4 Ravens for the Swamp Thing. Share us and spread
And if
the
you
word.
like what we do, join our Patreon. Patreon.com/JessandHids.
We could sign off with a and cut.
Bye. Oh yeah. And cut. End scene.
End scene.